Hello, everyone. This is the introductory video to microeconomics for the second 8 weeks of the spring semester, 2015 spring semester. Yeah, right. They call this spring semester, but let's all face it, it's winter semester. It's been negative 10 degrees out here, so that's hardly springtime. It doesn't get spring until the very end of the semester. But at any rate, I just wanted to give this introduction. This introductory video is effectively the same as Syllabus Monday, so we're going to go over the syllabus a little bit. And go through the basic design of the course and what the requirements are and how the points are going to be generated and how all that's going to go and what we're going to study. You might want to pause this at this point and get the copy of the syllabus. I sent you a copy of the syllabus just now in an email, and of course it's available on Blackboard. So you might want to get that and take a look at it and familiarize yourself with it. So first of all, let's think about what it is we're studying. Economics, I always define. My name's Honeywell, and I am a political economist. Well, now what that means is that I study political science and economics and the relationship between those two. And I always define for my students the distinction between politics, which is the management of behavior, and economics, which is the management of resources. So we're going to be looking at the management of resources at a micro level and how that works. Okay, so by microeconomics, we're dealing with the individual firm, the individual corporation on a small level. It's the basic principles of economics themselves. Okay, now just a few things, how we work. Okay, and the first thing I want to make mention of is the text for the class is McConnell, Brew, and Flynn, 20th edition, Microeconomics, published by McGraw-Hill. Now, it's a little bit different what we're doing in this class with the text than you may be used to in a class. In a lot of classes, the textbook drives the class, and any lecture and PowerPoints are in support of the textbook. We kind of reverse that. Our textbook is only supportive of the lectures. The driving force of the class is going to be PowerPoints and PowerPoint lectures, which I'm going to post. And so I want to familiarize you, first of all, with the systematic way that this course works. Here's what we'll do. All right. You go into the Blackboard for this class. Over on the left-hand side of your Blackboard is the weekly breakdown of the class. Okay. You go into a week, and what you'll see is the assignment in the text for reading. I try to minimize the reading as much as possible, and you want to keep in mind also that the reading is only supportive of the lectures. Okay? Then you'll see the PowerPoints for the week. Every week you'll have 2 PowerPoint presentations. Okay? What you are probably going to want to do with those is print them out. And I would advise setting the printer so that you can print them so that you have 3 slides to a page with some lines over there on the right that you can take notes on. And you'll also want to have a notebook that you can take notes, because then what you're going to do is each of those PowerPoint lectures, each of those presentations is then converted into a WMV file and then posted on YouTube. And I put a web link in the Blackboard, on Blackboard there. You click that web link, it takes you right to the YouTube video, and that's me narrating a lecture on the PowerPoint, which is effectively what you'd get in an on-ground class. You just don't get to look at me. And I understand that's a diminution of the quality of the class, but that's online, see? But at any rate, and this helps you put a face to a name by having this introductory video. And so that's that's the driving force of the class. You'll get very used to it. The class works very systematically. Every week, text assignment, PowerPoint presentation, PowerPoint video lectures, and then at the end of that, that's when we start to get into what I think you're probably most concerned with, which is the requirements. Now, the requirements fall into 2 basic categories every week. Now, I want to explain why I do this. Okay, I want to explain why I do this. In online classes, one of the things I've realized about teaching online is that I can smoke while I teach. Actually, what I realized about teaching online is that if I taught exclusively online, the hypothetical possibility exists that I would never have to get out of my pajamas. And I'm thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. But at any rate, the requirements fall into 2 general categories. And the reason I do this is because it's easier in an on-ground class to keep students on point. I see you guys all the time. I can check your progress, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, see where we're going with this. Well, online it's a little bit more difficult, and so in an effort to keep you guys on point, on schedule, what we have is every week we're going to have a 40-point quiz. 5 to 10 questions. I do not do multiple choice, so do not expect multiple choice. It will be short answer questions. I'll ask you direct short answer questions based on the topics at hand. Now understand, in going into this, I have a recognition that one of the things with an online class, okay, I don't expect, I'm realistic about this, okay? If I were taking an online class, unless there was some way of prohibiting, and there are ways of prohibiting you from doing this, but I don't do it. Okay, you can do all sorts of things. Actually, I could set it up so that I can actually shoot, like it would videotape you taking the test, but I don't do that. That's too much. Okay, I anticipate that you will have the course materials with you when you take the quiz. Okay, now the quiz, 5 to 10 questions, conceptual in nature. Okay, not short answer, or rather short answer, not multiple choice. You will be given a time constraint, and it's a very strict time constraint of 30 minutes. You'll have 30 minutes to answer the questions. At the end of that 30 minutes, the quiz will auto-submit whether you're finished or not. Okay? You will have to, it will be set to forced completion, meaning that you can only do it in one sitting. You're not going to be able to save it and come back to it. Now, the quiz will be available from 0800 on Monday morning until the following Sunday at midnight. So our week in this class runs from 8 a.m. Monday until midnight the following Sunday. Then you get a little 8-hour break on Sunday between weeks, and you'll be able to look to the week ahead if you're a go-getter. If you're aggressive enough, you'll be able to look at it. Right now, I don't have everything posted up there. I have the first week, and I'm working through the rest of it. Okay, and modifying it and throughout. So, okay, now that's your quiz. So you'll have to find a time at some point from 8 o'clock Monday morning until Sunday at midnight. You'll have to carve out a 30-minute block where you can sit down and take this quiz. Okay, at the end of 30 minutes, it's done. All right, so that's one thing. Now the problems are going to be based on the conceptions. Okay, the mathematics involved in this course is simple. It's not even high school algebra. Okay, it's 6th grade, 7th grade algebra. Easy stuff, not difficult. Okay, if you guys know anybody that does math, go wrestle them to the ground and get them to give you a help with mathematics. The mathematics isn't difficult. The problem is knowing what the math means. Okay, which is a conceptual problem. In classes that I've taught in economics, where I bring calculations in, okay, where I bring any kind of analytical problem solving, the students seem to obsess themselves with learning formulas and doing the math, and this is the tough part, and they don't want to do this part, and they throw the baby out with the bathwater. They forget all about the conceptual basis of it. And so as a result, they really don't know what's going on. Okay, they'll get a number, but not know what it means. We're driving it on conceptual basis. Now, each week, you'll have one problem to solve. You will have the entire week to solve it. It will be posted. The first of them will be posted, and they will be posted every week at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. You will have until Sunday the following week, Sunday that week, okay, so from Monday at 8 a.m. until the following Sunday at midnight, you will have to submit your response. Now, unlike the quizzes, this is not based on forced completion. Okay, you can work on part of it, save it, come back to it again. There's no auto submit feature. There's no time constraint. You can devote as much of your time as you want to it. Work with it all week. Go through it again and again and again. But it has to be submitted at midnight, and it's worth 10 points. Okay, so you get a 40-point quiz and a 10-point problem every week. That's 50 points. Okay, multiply that by the 8-week course, and you have 400 points. Okay, now in addition, we're going to have a final exam. And in a sense, it's comprehensive, and in a sense, it's not. Okay? The final exam will involve 10 problems. Okay? It will be posted. I haven't worked them all out. I haven't created them. I create these things. This is the fun of the class to me, is I don't take them from the publisher. I build the model myself. I build it myself. Oh my goodness. In a master's class that I did on economics, one of the problems I gave the master's students took me literally 24 hours to write. Yours won't be that complicated. Okay, yours will take a couple hours at most for me to write them. There will be 10 of these for the final, worth 100 points, 10 points each. Okay, they will be posted no later than the 4th week of our half semester. Okay, you will then have the remaining 4 weeks to work on them, and you can work at them at your convenience. Okay, they will have to be posted on Sunday at midnight of the final week of week 8. Okay, and so that's the and so that gives you 500 points. In addition, I'm toying with the idea. I haven't decided it yet. I'm toying with the idea of throwing some extra credit out there, some extra credit problems, some extra credit questions, get you a few points. What I'm really going to do is I'm going to see after the first couple of weeks, see how the quizzes are rolling, and see if we actually need any kind of extra credit. And so that's going to be the requirement. Now, in the weekly, if you look at the syllabus, you have the weekly breakdown. It's very straightforward and very systematic. We start off with the preliminary concepts and assumptions of economics. Okay, we then move into the reason that I'm doing it this way. Okay, the reason that I'm not having the textbook drive it is I've never been particularly fond of the way economics textbooks organize the material. I organize it a little bit more systematically, and at least in my mind, more logically. Okay, so we introduce the basic assumptions and laws of economics. Okay, with some of the conceptual correlates that flow from those. Then we introduce demand and supply in an introductory way. Now that's going to be week 2. Then we discuss demand at length. Okay, elasticity, utility maximization, consumer behavior, the whole 9 yards. Okay, that'll take us week 3. Then the next week we study supply. We study profit maximization, how supply works, how producers work. Then the week following that, we put those two things together and discuss equilibrium and how equilibrium works, how the equilibrium point moves, how the equilibrium point functions. We'll look at different types of equilibrium. We'll look at market equilibrium, profit equilibrium. Now, once we've done that, we've got the basic functioning process of microeconomics. And so the next week, then we can get into the idea of markets, the different type of markets. Now, markets range from purely competitive markets with very few barriers to entry and large numbers of competitors, all of whom are producing the same product, such as farmers, okay, or fishermen. Okay, that's a purely competitive market. You have very few barriers to entry. You have multiple producers all producing roughly the same product, ranging all the way to monopoly, where you have one producer, where the producer is the industry. Okay, and along the way, you go through monopolistic competition, oligopoly, duopoly, and then to monopoly. Okay, so we'll look at those markets and how they function and what the differences in these markets are and how the markets function differently. Okay, then after that, okay, so what are we in now? One, preliminary concepts, demand and an intro to demand and supply, where we'll be introduced to the laws, demand, then supply, then equilibrium in week 5, then markets in week 6. Then in week 7, we'll look at the microeconomics of finance. We won't get deep into banking, just an idea of how finance works in microeconomics, and international trade. Now, international trade is, of course, an independent course and an independent subject, and in the field of economics, pound for pound, it's my favorite. Okay, because in international economics, all of the balls are in motion. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to look at the international trade only insofar as it deals with the individual and the firm and how they affect one another. Then in the final week, we're going to talk about, okay, now that we've got all of this in motion. We've got the basic principles of economics. We've got how it functions. We've got the different types of markets. We've got how it functions on a financial level and an international level. Then what we're going to look at is, now let's look at market failure. What do we mean by market failure? How does market failure take place? Okay, now I'm going to introduce some of this as we go through the semester. But it's all going to come together in that last week. And then that's going to basically introduce us to the idea of government intervention in the marketplace, which of course becomes the substance of macroeconomics. Okay, which is not our study here. That's not our purpose to study macroeconomics. Okay, and so then we'll go into government. So we'll go into the microeconomics of government itself and how government works with microeconomics. Okay, how it balances things. What we're going to find with the government is that the government, in a lot of cases, represents a very unique market in that they are monopsonistic. Monopolistic, a monopoly. Most of us have heard of a monopoly. A monopoly is where you have one producer. Well, a monopsony is where you have one buyer. In many cases, the government is monopsonistic. Give you an example: national defense. They're the only ones. The government. They're the only ones purchasing, General Dynamics fighter aircraft. All right. They can sell by contract to other countries, etc., and that's a little beyond our scope, but nonetheless. Oh, and by the way, just because I'm sitting here looking at myself and thinking about this, the reason I've got the headset on for this is because the microphone on my computer is, to say the least, substandard, and if I don't use the headset mic, you get all this ambient noise, you get all the sound of the fish tank and the furnace running, and you get my cat right now is down here at my feet playing with a ping pong ball, and you'd hear that all over the place. So yeah, I got 7 cats, just so you know. Yeah, a lot of okay. Now let's see. That's the requirements of the class. That's the basic organization of the class. That's an introduction to me. Oh, another thing. One of the things that's difficult and the challenge in online courses is student-faculty interaction. Okay. Unlike an on-ground class where I see you all the time, I don't have a chance to put a face to a name. We don't talk that much. In fact, I've become, now that I've done a few of these things, a bunch of these things actually, I'm now questioning whether or not any of my cyber students actually exist. As far as I know, they're all figments of cybernetic figments of my imagination. I've met, actually, in my online history class, which I'm doing right now, I have one of them in my on-ground class, so I'm firmly convinced she exists. One of them in my on-ground class, her roommate is in the class, so I'll take Mara's word for it that she exists. And then another one came in to meet me, and that's the point that I'm driving at is, I teach on ground at Robert Morris. Okay, I'm on campus Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's my days. I'm a Monday, Wednesday, Friday guy. I arrive around 12:45, sometimes a little early, sometimes a little late. I usually try actually to get there around 12:30. Where my office is, I'm adjunct faculty, so I don't actually have an office, and I refuse to hang out in that adjunct faculty office there in 305 Hale. I had better digs when I was a graduate student. When I was a graduate student, I had my own office. Okay, and so I refuse to do that. So and because I find that isolates me from the students. I like being around the students. I can't help my students if I'm not around my students. Okay? And so where my office is this semester, okay, because it's wintertime, I have to be inside. Those of you who know me or have ever seen me know that in the nice weather, my office is outside roughly between the Nicholson Center and Hale, sitting on the grass under a tree. Okay, waiting for students to arrive to discuss anything under the sun. Okay, well, in the wintertime, I have to move inside, and where I've moved in is right outside my on-ground classroom. Okay, so where I am, come about 12:30 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, is in the Nicholson Center, upstairs on your way to the library, outside room 415. There's this little lounge there, maybe you've seen it, with those chairs where you can move the tables and whatnot. That's where I am, and that's right outside the offices of the School of Education and Social Sciences. Okay, and my classroom's right there at 4:15. And so hopefully, particularly for those of you, I know that some of you may not be on-ground students as well, but the vast majority of my online students actually are taking online classes because they have to, because they can't fit it anywhere else in their schedule, or because they're trying to avoid certain professors. Who the hell knows why, right? Uh, well, that's where I am, and I'm there from 12:30, okay, until 1:35. My class, my on-ground class, meets at 1:45 till 2:35. So then I'm in room 215, or 415 rather, and then after that I pretty much beat it off campus. Although arrangements can be made if you want to meet. If you want to ambush me after class, feel perfectly free to ambush me after class. You can wait in the wings outside of my classroom, waiting for me to, right? And we can go over problems. We can do whatever you want, okay? And that's one of the things. I do not want you missing points, okay, on these problems because you don't know what's being asked. You can ask me questions about them, and I can give you answers, but I will not give you the answer to the problem. I can lead you in the right direction or tell you if you're going in the right direction, but I'm not going to give away the boat. I want you to work on this. See, one of the things that I want you to get across to you, one of the things that I try as best I can to get across to my economics students is that economics actually is the most relevant thing, and it is extraordinarily fun to play with. But in order for it to be fun, and in order to be able to play with it and enjoy it, you have to know it. Okay? And so what you're going to have to do with these problems is think. You have to think. And we're going to go through that in the first week. We're going to take a look at some stuff, and I want you really to start thinking about what's actually happening here. Okay? That gives you a conceptual understanding of economics. Now let me see. What have we gone through? We've gone through basically the syllabus, okay, the weekly breakdown of the class, the requirements of the class, the introduction to the class, and so I think that's about it for the video. I greatly look forward to doing microeconomics. I haven't done micro actually at Robert Morris since 2006. I moved over to the social sciences, and I'm the world geographer at Robert Morris, and I've been doing that in some political science, and occasionally doing some history as well, or some economics as well. So I'm greatly looking forward to this. I love microeconomics. Microeconomics is, I always wonder whether or not I like micro more than macro, and I can never decide which. Micro tends to be the basis of economics itself, so I like it quite a bit. But macro is the extension, and you bring in a lot more political variables. And as I said, my favorite of all is international. Okay, that's it. Make contact with me as soon as possible if you can. Let me know you're out there. Look through the syllabus and get started on week 1. We go active. What am I at here? I'm at right now. I'm shooting this at 6 o'clock on Friday night. We go active at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The video will be posted by then. Take a look at it as soon as you can. It'll familiarize you with the class, and then just start going through. It's very systematic how we do things. Every week is going to be very similar in terms of its structure, and that's that.